Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Pat.
And I'm Erin.
So today we're looking at our Newswatch article for this month. We're going to check out two news stories. Now, one of them is relating to elephants and people poaching elephants. We'll explain that in a moment, but it made me think about a story I saw recently about a rhino.
Okay.
Another rare, big, beautiful animal. And this rhino has joined the dating app Tinder.
Ooh, I wonder if he has any matches.
He's looking for a partner. Of course, the rhino isn't really using this account, but I guess the people who look after him have created the account for him to sort of show he's there and he needs companionship because he's the last male northern white rhino in the world.
Well, it doesn't sound like he has very many opportunities coming to him on Tinder, but I bet there's another reason they're doing that.
That's right. They want to raise money so that they can use IVF to... There are a couple of females still around, but he hasn't managed to get them pregnant, so they're hoping to use IVF. And going on Tinder, if you go on his dating profile, you'll find a link to a site where you can donate money.
Interesting.
So that this species doesn't die out.
Well, I hope it works.
That's a cool news story. We've got two more coming up, one that does involve big, beautiful animals and poaching. We're going to start with something else, though, so let's read through the articles and find out what they are.
First place for Taiwanese junior modeler. A young Taiwanese hero took home the gold from a major event, the 2016 Gunpla Builders World Cup. Contestants from around the world used kits from the popular Gundam TV and movie series to show off their skills. Qiu Shenjun, a junior high school student from Taipei, won the junior category at the international competition in Tokyo last December, competing against 525 young model builders from 12 other countries. His winning entry, Over War, shows a well-painted robot constructed from a Gundam model kit, posed realistically on top of a piece of rotten wood. Completely assembled, it demonstrates an aged feel and mature technique. Qiu spent 2 months assembling the model after 6 months of planning and practice. With his parents' support, Qiu has been building robot models for about 3 years. Qiu says he finds it surprising that he won. For him, model building is about having fun, and winning is just a bonus.
The case of the vanishing elephant tusks. Researchers studying elephants in Africa say poaching has changed the animals there in a way they've never seen before. Fewer and fewer African elephants are growing tusks. Even though the elephant population is recovering from years of devastating poaching, the elephants that are left have smaller tusks than they used to, or no tusks at all. Poachers target elephants for the ivory in their tusks so that they can sell it as art or traditional medicines for a very high price, especially in China and Vietnam. Elephants with smaller tusks aren't ideal targets, so poachers don't usually go after them. Those animals, therefore, have better chances of surviving and of having babies. In the Addo Elephant Park in South Africa, for example, 98% of the female elephants there do not have tusks. Although not having tusks may protect elephants from being hunted, an elephant without tusks to dig for food or defend itself is essentially a crippled being.
All right, welcome back. So we've got two interesting stories to talk about today. The first one being about a junior modeler taking home the gold medal in a model building competition in Japan.
That's cool. Good job. Well done.
All right, so let's take a look at the title of the news article. It says, First Place for Taiwanese Junior Modeler. Now, we know that a model is something that you can build. And then we add the suffix er onto the end of it, and we make it mean a person who builds models.
Yeah, a person who does that thing. A model is a small version of something else. So you can make model planes and trains. You can make model soldiers, which I did a lot when I was a kid. I had hundreds of model soldiers. Here we've got a different kind of model, as we'll see. So the article starts off by saying, a young Taiwanese hero took home the gold from a major event. If you take home the gold, that means you've won first place, which is generally a gold medal. And if you take it home, of course, you win it and you can take it back home. And this isn't just a small competition. This is a major event. So it's a big one. It's not like a local competition. This is an international one, perhaps.
Okay, we know that because it says the event is called the 2016 Gunpla Builders World Cup. So we know it's an international competition because there it says world in the name of the event. It also says contestants from around the world used kits from the popular Gundam TV and movie series to show off their skills. Contestants meaning people who compete in an event or a contest, which is where the word comes from. And from around the world, obviously from many different countries.
That's right. They'll come from Taiwan, Japan, all over the world. We find out later that this takes place in Tokyo, but let's just look at the word kit here. Kit is a word that's very closely associated with modeling. Basically, a kit is all the things you need to make the model, along with the instructions, all put together in a box or in another container. Often the box itself is kind of made into separate areas. And sometimes the pieces you need to twist out of a frame to make them, things like that. So a modeling kit is basically the box with everything you need to make the model from start all the way to the finish, with probably some tips on maybe how to paint it, how to look after it, how to hold all the pieces together, instructions and so on, all that sort of stuff. And these kits are from a Gundam TV series, which I had never heard of until I came to Taiwan.
Okay.
And then I saw some magazines and a few toys in shops, so it seems to be big fighting robots.
Right.
Seems to be the idea.
I do recognize the name. I don't have enough interest in it myself to know exactly what it is, but my sister is interested in these kinds of things, and so I've learned a couple of the names from these things.
That's better
from
than
her.
I can do.
All right, so they're using these kits to show off their skills. When you show something off, you show people something that you're good at. You're happy and proud to display your skills in public, I guess. Sometimes it's used negatively. Sometimes you're showing off that you're better than other people, and people don't like to always see or hear these kinds of things. But it's doing something in a way that you want to be admired for.
Yeah, it's saying, look what I can do. And as long as you do that in the right way and don't become too arrogant, then it's fine to show people your gift. So the person with this gift is Cho Shenjun. I hope I've pronounced that right. He is a junior high school student from Taipei. He won the junior category in the international competition in Tokyo last December. So this is last year. It happened in Japan. And he won in the junior category. We use the word category to mean a class or division of people or things that have certain shared characteristics. So it could be an age category. So anybody who is at junior high school, or 13 to 16 or something like that.
Right.
If you were talking about other like athletic categories, you think about weightlifting. You have heavy weights, light weights, same for boxing.
Based on size.
Based on size and weight. In rowing, you have, 8 people in a boat, 2 people in a boat. They're different categories. So here it means he was taking part against other people of his age.
Right. Okay, and that's what it means by junior as well. All right, so he was in Tokyo last December competing against 525 young model builders from 12 other countries. Compete, we talked about this a bit before. Compete means to try to win in a competition or contest. Compete and competition have the same sort of word there, so we kind of put them together just like we do with contestant and contest. So when you compete in something, you're trying to win, you're trying to take home the medal, which he did.
Yep, and we find out that his winning entry is called Over War. There's some details about it, but before we look at those details, let's just quickly cover the word entry. This is the thing you put in a competition to be judged. So if it was a singing competition, your entry would be the song you sang.
Right, or a poetry contest, the poem you wrote.
Yeah, the poem you wrote. So here means the winning model, the one he entered into the competition and said, this is the one I want you to look at. And it shows a well-painted robot constructed from a Gundam model kit, there's that word, posed realistically on top of a piece of rotten wood. So if something is constructed, then it is built from something else, okay? So we talked about model kits. We know it's got all the little parts in it. And he has constructed this robot from the pieces. So that means he's put them all together, worked out which bits fitted where, made sure that the weight is even so the thing doesn't fall over all the time.
Right.
Attached them all together so that everything looks like one single piece instead of lots of things stuck together. There's an art to this kind of thing.
And one of the things about the competition, it seems to me, is that to take home gold in this competition, you do have to think a lot about the art behind this, because it also says in that sentence, the kit or the robot was posed realistically on top of a piece of rotten wood. Now, posed means to be put into a certain position. Maybe the robot's got his arms raised above him, or he's holding a weapon in a certain way, something like this. But it's posed realistically. That means like in a way that makes it seem like it's real life. So it doesn't just look like a robot sort of stuck onto a block of wood. The robot is doing an action that you would expect from a human or from a robot that can move and walk and do all these things.
Yeah, so it might be bending its leg as it kind of climbs onto the wood, that kind of thing.
Now, in my mind, it seems like he's really done a lot of work here, because like it's not just him just building a robot and making sure the robot looks perfect. It's about putting together a whole picture of the robot.
Yeah, the best models will kind of almost tell a story, so someone could look at it and they can imagine what the robot's doing, where it is, and what's going on in the kind of background, even if there isn't one. So the article then says, completely assembled, it demonstrates an aged feel and mature technique. So assembled is a sort of similar meaning to constructed. It means it's been put together from all the different parts. When something has lots of smaller parts or many parts, you need to assemble it. You need to put them together in the right way so something works. Okay, you could assemble, for example, a computer from all the different parts that go into that. You could assemble a house from the necessary bits. Furniture, we often talk about from IKEA. You bring that home, you have to assemble it.
Right. So when it's all put together like this, the robot is demonstrating an aged feel and mature technique. So when you demonstrate something in this way, you're showing clearly that you have something or that something exists. So what he's trying to show exists here, or what he's trying to demonstrate, is an aged feel.
Yeah, now for me, I believe this means that the robot doesn't look like it's new and fresh out of the box. It looks as though this robot has been walking around in a real world for a long time. Maybe it's taken battle damage, its paint's got a bit rusty, or something has come off. So it doesn't look just like, oh, here's a model. This is a real thing in a real world. So you can do that. There are painting techniques and things you can do with models to make it look old and therefore like it's a real thing, not just here's a shiny new model straight out of the box.
Right.
Now, as well as this kind of feel, he's using a mature technique. Mature means kind of adult, grown up and developed, well developed. It's not just new, like any kid could kind of make a model. Here he's really thinking in a mature, adult, kind of developed way about what I want to do with this model, and using skills or techniques that a more experienced modeler would know. And that's probably why he won, because they look at it and go, okay, you understand how to make it look older, to make it look realistic. You're demonstrating things that an older modeler would understand. We don't expect it from a junior, so that's great that you've understood these mature, developed, sensitive, artistic techniques. Okay, we're going to take a short break right here. We'll be back to finish this article in just a moment.
Okay, welcome back. So we've been talking about a junior modeler from Taiwan who's taken away the gold medal from a model building competition in Tokyo. We've just finished talking about Chio's mature technique here and how he's sort of built this robot to look better than they would expect from a young junior modeler.
That's right.
And it says a little bit more about how he might have gone about getting to this point. It says, Chio spent 2 months assembling the model after 6 months of planning and practice.
So he's put a lot of work in here.
Right. So at least 6 months of beginning to, how am I going to paint this? How am I going to build it? What do I want it to look like? Sort of thing. He's been thinking about all these things for months and months and months.
And with his parents' support, Cho has been building robot models for about 3 years. So this is an existing hobby he's done for a long time, and he's improved his technique during that time. Now, we then find that Cho says he finds it surprising that he won. Here, the it just means he finds the fact that he won surprising.
Right.
And for him, model building is about having fun, and winning is just a bonus. And that's a great way to think about things. Like, I'm really enjoying this thing. I don't mind whether I win or lose. I mean, it's great that I win. As he says, it's a bonus. A bonus is something extra on top of what you would ordinarily expect.
Right.
It's some kind of like pay bonus is when you get more money than you would expect because you've done a good job, or it's a holiday, or you've reached the end of your contract and they think you've done well, we're going to give you extra money. That is a bonus. And we can apply it to anything that's unexpected and is still given to you.
And that you really enjoy having.
Oh, yeah. Bonuses are all good things.
Right.
So good job, Cho. We are now going to move on to our second story, the title of which is The Case of the Vanishing Elephant Tusks.
An interesting
It is.
title
Sounds like a Sherlock Holmes story. So to vanish is to disappear completely with nobody having any idea of where it's gone.
Right.
It's a little different from the word disappear. I always think that vanishing has an air of mystery about it. You really are not sure where it's gone or how it's disappeared in that way. Disappear just means it's no longer in sight, but vanish has a kind of magical, it's gone suddenly, unexpectedly.
So disappear, in my mind, in that case, means that like you'll probably see it again, but that must be what happens to all my socks. They vanish.
They vanish. You have no idea where they are or what's happening.
Right.
Well, here it's tusks that are vanishing, and tusks are the two long pieces of ivory, which we'll discuss a bit later, that stick out of an elephant on either side of their trunk, just above the mouth. And we'll kind of find out what they use them for a bit later as well. But it's those bits on an elephant, the kind of bony things. The
long, bony things that come out of their mouths. Yes. All right, so we're going to talk about poaching in this sentence. The first sentence reads, researchers studying elephants in Africa say poaching has changed the animals there in a way they've never seen before. Let's talk about this word poaching here. When you poach an animal, you illegally catch or kill this animal. Could be any kind of an animal, a bird, a fish, a mammal. It doesn't really matter. On somebody else's property. Now, this usually happens in game parks in Africa where people take care of the animals in a different way than you would a zoo. There's no fences or anything, but the animals there are protected from being caught or killed, which is what poaching is doing.
Yeah, and we find out that the change that we've talked about is fewer and fewer African elephants are growing tusks, the bony things. Now, that's interesting, but why? The article says, even though the elephant population is recovering from years of devastating poaching, the elephants that are left have smaller tusks than they used to, or no tusks at all.
Interesting.
So, first, some good news. The elephant population is recovering. To recover means to get better after something. And in this case, it means, with the word population, to increase in numbers after a decrease. So, the numbers of elephants were going down, but now the population is recovering. There are more elephants again. The population is returning to levels it had been in the past.
Right.
So, it's getting better, basically. And the reason it needed to recover is because there was poaching, as Erin mentioned, and we describe it as devastating, which is really bad. Something that is devastated has been really badly damaged or possibly completely destroyed.
Right.
So it can no longer be used, or it's no longer there at all.
Right. So we use this word a lot when we think of natural disasters. Earthquakes are devastating, a devastating typhoon, something that causes a lot of harm or damage, or even can sometimes kill people. All right, but let's continue on. So these elephants have smaller and smaller tusks, or they don't have any tusks at all. Now, the reason for this is because poachers target elephants for the ivory in their tusks so that they can sell it as art or traditional medicines for a very high price. Now, we talked about poaching, the verb, the act to poach, or illegally kill or catch an animal. A poacher is the person who does this act. They're the person who illegally catches or kills the animals.
Yep, and they poach elephants for the ivory, which is this hard, creamy white substance in the tusks of an elephant or other animals, and is used for various things to make ornaments or, as we've seen here, traditional medicines, especially in China and Vietnam. Now, elephants with smaller tusks aren't ideal targets. The word ideal means perfect or very close to being perfect. Something that's ideal is exactly what you want or need. So poachers don't want to go after elephants with smaller tusks because there's less profit.
Right.
They don't get as much money from taking the tusks off and selling them, which is why poachers don't go after elephants with smaller tusks. Here, go after means poach and try to kill.
Right.
We could also use go after to mean try and get something that you want. You could go after a job that you like, for example, or go after a particular goal. But here it means go after, hunt down and kill elephants.
Right. Now, it also says those animals therefore have better chances of surviving and of having babies. So the poachers don't really go after these animals, and so when they're not being killed, they're surviving. If they have smaller tusks, they'll pass that gene on to their children, and those elephant babies will have smaller tusks, and eventually elephants might not have tusks at all.
So that is evolution at work. So we see that in the Addo Elephant Park in South Africa, for example, 98% of the female elephants there don't have tusks.
That's a huge number.
Yeah, so they're just evolving to succeed without them.
Right. Then it says, although not having tusks may protect elephants from being hunted, an elephant without tusks to dig for food or defend itself is essentially a crippled being. A few things to look at here. So these elephants use their tusks. They're not just there for a decoration. They have a very important purpose, which is to dig for food. And they use these tusks to dig into the hard ground. Maybe they'll find roots or something down there that they can pull out with their trunks. And they use it to defend them.
Yeah, they use them to defend themselves.
Right. And so defend here means to protect something or someone. If someone is attacking you, you defend yourself. You might hit back or scream and do something else to attract notice to this person, or to make sure that you
make them go away.
Right, to make sure that you don't get harmed.
Yeah, I would always think of defend as being a bit more active than protect. Like a helmet can protect your head by being hard, but defending means kind of exerting some energy or effort in order to protect yourself.
Right. So you would use a weapon to defend yourself, probably.
Or even a shield, but you'd have to move that around.
Right.
But an elephant without these tusks, we're saying it's essentially a crippled being. Essentially, it's just used to emphasize the nature or the basic facts about something. And crippled just means that the thing that is crippled has lost an ability or lost something about it that means it can't function as well as it used to be able to.
Right.
We don't like to use the word crippled these days to talk about people. We have other words for that, such as disabled, we prefer to use. But essentially, yes, an elephant without these things, it can't dig, it can't defend itself so well. It's not as good as it was when it had tusks.
Right. So the chances of it not surviving on its own because of this is a lot lot higher. It's
That's right.
Not able to feed itself, not able to defend itself from other animals or other humans if they're being poached, maybe.
So what we're seeing here, the vanishing elephant tusks are not disappearing off the elephants. They're basically being born with either smaller ones or, as we've seen in this particular park, they've been born without them as just an evolutionary reaction. Evolution is the surviving of animals or people that are best equipped to deal with whatever situation they find in. So if not having tusks is the best way for them to keep going, I mean, it is a shame that elephants don't have these beautiful tusks.
It is, but it's interesting because without them, the market for these products will die, probably.
That's right. That's what we hope.
Evolution takes a really long time to occur, and so this is a process that has been happening over generations, probably decades to hundreds of years at this point. But it will be interesting to see in the future if evolution sort of gives them another way of defending themselves, or if they evolve into being able to eat other plants that don't need to be dug up or having other defensive mechanisms.
Yeah, I mean, obviously most elephants are kept in protected parks, which I think would give the people who run the parks better chances to provide them with food.
Right.
And they can use their trunks to, strip leaves and they break down things. In terms of protection, I mean, in fairness, for a full-grown elephant, there aren't many animals who are going to try hunting it.
Right, except for us.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And if we're not going to hunt them, then they should be better.
Be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pleased that the elephant population is recovering. Of course, it is very sad that they don't have the tusks that we can see, sometimes in pictures or in zoos or in some that still do have their tusks. But I prefer to have elephants with no tusks than no elephants
at all.
Right. That is basically the story here. And I imagine if we looked around, we'd probably find that other animals are also adapting, changing, evolving. Maybe not in exactly the same way, but in ways.
In other ways that, we definitely don't just poach elephants or rhinos. We poach lots of other animals. So I imagine over time, these animals will get to a point where they have adapted to avoid poachers.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay, well, that is the end of our 2 news stories in this month's Newswatch article. Thank you very much for being with us as we've discussed the grammar and vocabulary. We'll talk to you again next time. For English Digest, I'm Pat.
And I'm Erin.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.